It's Wednesday, so we're here with the QC Sportsnet boys, Joe Winkle and Grant Dahlstrom. The final Western Big Six games of the year on Tuesday. Rock Island and Moline beat Quincy and Alleman to share the Western Big Six title, Joe.
Yeah, big day for two of the schools we cover, that's for sure. And it was a big night for Moline. We talked. The theme we've been talking about a lot in our games the last few weeks have been how hard it is to win a conference, right? There's a reason that you cherish it and you celebrate it as much as you do. You think of all of the winning that Moline has done over the 10 years that Sean Taylor has been there. And not even just that. They obviously won a lot with the first real core that he had of Deontay Billups, Drew Wiemers, Brody Harding, those guys. But post-COVID, the Brock Harding core with Grant Welch and then the Freemans coming over, but then Trey Taylor, Braden Freeman, and now this group here, they have won all these games. They have more wins than anyone in the conference in a 5-year stretch in league history. They have the most wins of any public school in the state of Illinois over the last 5 years. But they've only won one league championship in this stretch. They had only won 2 league championships under Sean Taylor in his 10 years at Moline up until last night. And that just shows how hard it is to win a conference championship. So for them to get it done yesterday, it was really special, and it just shows what kind of special season it's been for the Maroons.
UT closing out the season with some history as well. Their 10th conference win over Sterling. That's the most in 55 years for the Panthers.
Yeah, shout out to Brian Stocking for that note. As far back as I was going, I couldn't find a time where they had won 10 conference games in a year. But Brian Stocking reached out. First time since 1969, the 1970 season. So it's definitely been a long time for UT. And I talked to Andy Say post-game last night following the win over Sterling, in which they went wire to wire, started the game up 18-3 after one. They got 11 different guys to score, had a really cool moment at the end where Preston Baldwin scored, hit a buzzer beater 3 to score his first conference points all season, and just, I believe, his second basket all season. And it was on senior night, so it was pretty cool for the senior UT student section to rush the court. They got the 18th overall win of the season. They got that 10th conference win. And then talking to Andy Say, he said, we scheduled this season tough, so being 18-11, which is a step down overall from where they were last year, that's not a disappointment to us. He said that they felt like they won every single game, that they really thought that they had an excellent chance to win this year. Outside, he said, of the couple of DeKalb games in which they lost. But it's an 18-win regular season, and UT really, it was kind of a roller coaster there. After a pretty strong start, they had a rough span in a part of December, rough span in the part of January. But Andy Say's really happy with how his group has kind of overcome that. And then to get to those 10 conference wins and still have a really solid conference season outside of some of this losing they've done outside of the conference. So yeah, the dominating win last night really capped off a pretty solid regular season for the Panthers.
Showed their depth as well. 12 different scores and 14
Yeah,
from Octavius
11 different guys scored. They had Octavius Hickman at 14 to lead the way, 3 guys with 9. A couple with 8. So yeah, it was a really they did exactly what they should have done against Sterling. Played much better against them in this matchup than they did in the January matchup.
And I wanted to note for UT as well, they got, I think, their 9th loss when they lost to Moline for the second time, and that was back in kind of late January, or about 3 weeks ago now. So they finished the season pretty well.
Yeah, they won 6 of their last 8 to close the year.
And one of those losses, I'm sure Coach Say probably feels like they should have had with the Wheaton-Warrenville South game, which they had at home in that QC Suburban shootout. The Rocky game, they started well. Rocky had a big third quarter, et cetera, and UT just kind of ran out of gas or ran out of time late. But we've kind of said how, as much of a roller coaster for UT as it's been this season, maybe they could be the team that peaked out of the 3. Maybe they could be the team that peaks the most at the end of the season, and that we'll next week we'll talk. When we preview the postseason, that Moline UT regional matchup is incredibly fascinating. But I just wanted to note that the UT winning the way they have over the last couple weeks to close the regular season is very impressive.
Yeah, Andy Say said that he thinks that his group's playing the best basketball they played this season right now, having won those last 2 games to close the regular year against Quincy, then Sterling, then 6 of the last 8 overall. So yeah, UT's definitely feeling good, and now you got an 8-day break until playoffs next week.
Some good momentum going forward. Let's get to the end of the regular season awards. and you both have the same first team for all Western Big Six, and I would put these 5 out with anybody.
Yeah, I did put my answers in the chat first, so maybe Grant just stole my, that's all right.
I would agree with both of you too.
Matt, student stealing from teacher, but that's okay. I'm just kidding, Grant. So we both have the same first team. So this is how I kind of wanted to put it together. So we're only doing two teams for our version of all conference teams. When they do the actual teams, usually sometimes they do 2 teams, then honorable mentions, and sometimes the teams have more than 5 guys. We just did 2 teams, 5 guys each. So for my team, I at least made it try to seem like both of them resemble the basketball team. So 4 guys, guard or forward, centric, doesn't matter, and then 1 big. So obviously Brady Welch, Arthur Abbey, Devin Marshall, Lawson Zulu came into the season as 3 of the top, or those guys came into the season as the preseason probably top 4 guys in the league. Octavius Hickman you would have thought would be in there as well, but he had, I wouldn't say a disappointing season last year, but just so it felt like sometimes he would leave a lot of meat on the bone. Mm-hmm. This year he struggled to start the season, but I think he definitely has come along, especially in this winning streak late for UT. So I think that represents perfectly. We'll talk more about Welch, but in a bit. Zulu and Abby and Marshall, I think have been the most constant 2 guys for Rock Island all season long in a multitude of ways. Arthur really controls how that team he settled in so well. He controls how everything runs, where he has really adapted into a true point guard style, and Devin Marshall has just been an incredibly dynamic scorer, kind of as a pseudo wing for them. And Lawson Zulu, he was kind of my 5th guy. I would have felt like it would have been a disservice to put him on the second team, but he was the one that was it was between him and one other player to kind of try to figure out where I was going to have him. He's a fantastic player, and coming into the season, I think we all would have said he was the best player in the entire conference. It was a weird year for him. He started out the season dinged up, and then he just kind of picked his spots. He's had a few good games, but hasn't had the gaudy numbers that Marshall and Abby had. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm diminishing Zulu at all. It's just the numbers-wise and counting stats, he hasn't had the eye-popping stuff like Arthur and Devin.
13 points a game for Lawson Zulu. I think he's definitely a good fit for this team. He leads the league in steals, so I think you could acclaim him as maybe the best both-way player for Rock Island. Not one of their top 2 scorers that Arthur Abbey and Devin Marshall give him. But Lawson Zulu still is an attacking guy that can beat you in a couple different ways offensively and defensively too, for sure, with a lot of those steals and wrecking havoc with kind of his athleticism there. Octavius Hickman, yeah, he's definitely heated up here down the stretch. 16 points a game over the last 5 conference games. 14 points a game over a span, but even or overall in the conference slate. Going back just a couple of weeks ago, though, he was sitting kind of around a 12-point average. So, yeah, he's definitely ramped it up, had a really solid game against Sterling, had 22 in the last Friday of the regular season, last week against Quincy. So Hickman heating up, and then obviously Brady Welch, sharpshooter, always probably the most athletic guy on the floor, gritty, speedy, quick, can beat you a lot, and doesn't miss many shots. And also really a guy that puts that Moline team on his back more than most other guys have to in the conference.
The second team, you were both in agreement on a couple, but a couple differences as well for your second team. Let's go through those.
So for my second team, the guy I want to note first, the player that I had the closest to the first team that was the hardest omission, it was between Lawson Zulu and Geneseo's Jack Christ. Christ has put up some gaudy numbers in some of Geneseo's biggest wins this year. He had, I think, 26 and 10 plus against Sterling in a win. He had, I think, 32 and 11 when they beat Quincy early in the season. So in some of their biggest wins, he has had some huge numbers. And then Jaden Burge as well. Both of them I have. So Geneseo sporting 2 all-conference guys. We've kind of been teasing that the last few weeks or the last month or so. Burge finishing second in the conference in rebounding, future Division I baseball player to my knowledge. So 2 really good athletes, both juniors for Geneseo. Avion Thomas is on my list as well. The ultimate glue guy. Can do so many different things. He's the guy that you have on your team if you're a fan of Rock Island, you love him. or if you're a fan of the team that if he's on the team that you cheer for, you love him. But if he's on the team that you're going against, you absolutely despise him. And I think that people might not get that, but that's one of the biggest compliments you can have to an athlete. He is just such a great player. Love watching him play and compete. And then my other two, Jack Went, who a 3-year starter for Allman. Allman has definitely taken some steps forward. Went, I think, finished 3rd in the league in scoring. Or he finished top 5.
Reached 1,000 points as well, yeah.
Reached 1,000 points, finished top 5 in the league in scoring with just about 16 points per game in league play. And then Eden Mayala for Galesburg, their center, really came on with some nice performances in the second half of the season for the Silver Streaks, for them finishing 4th in the conference.
Grant.
Yeah, my top 4 were the same. Jack Went. I love watching that kid play. He shoots for Alleman, he drives for Alleman, he defends for Alleman, and he's kind of served as a leader. He's still just a junior, so he has one more year still to go, but he's been with the Pioneers for the last 3 years, and for this team built almost solely around a freshman in Darion McDaniel, and then a handful of sophomores in there. He really has to kind of serve this leader for this Pioneers group, and he's done exactly that. Jack Kreis I put on there as well. A lot of credit, as Joe pointed out. Avion Thomas, definitely kind of similar to what I said with Lawson Zulu, where Thomas has really strong defensive numbers. I think he's top of the league in assists and can create some things on the offensive side of the floor. He loves to set up these guys. There's really top-end scores for Rock Island in the Devin Marshalls and the Arthur Abbeys. Jayden Burridge in there as well for Geneseo. He had a solid season. And then Cesar Bile, I was kind of between almost 3, 4, 5 names here for my 5th guy on the second team. I was between Keegan Crummer, another guy on Galesburg who is top 15 in a lot of categories in the conference. Cesar Bile, you could almost say the same about him. He's in double figures per game. So a lot of different names in there, but I think Cesar Bile had a really consistent season for Galesburg. He's still, I believe, an underclassman, so he has some years to get better. And that Galesburg team had a lot of different pieces. We've said 3 or 4 names for guys on their team, but I gave Bile the edge there as the 5th. I think you can definitely make a great argument for Keegan Crummer as well, and a couple of other guys around the league for that 5th spot.
Him and Bile and Mayala both sophomores, so Coach Taylor Beals got it. Hopefully, going to have it home. And I think the league's better when Galesburg is in the mix. They're in the late 2010s with Mike Reynolds, and then the early 2020s, the first couple of years, they really had maybe the most consistent program in the top half of the league, along with Rocky, and then UT for a little bit, and then Moline obviously jumped in when Sean Taylor became the coach. But was a pretty rough few years for them, but Taylor Thiel's got that thing humming, and we mentioned a few of those guys from Galesburg. They're going to be around for a long time. A couple other honorable mentions: Brennan Lepper for Quincy. Mm-hmm. I thought he had a really good season. You mentioned Darion McDaniel, who we're going to bring him up here in a moment. He's another one as well that had a really good year. So a lot of good young players that are going to be around for quite some time, kind of just on the outside looking in of the all-conference teams.
And I think definitely going to be able to make these programs. We've already seen some take leaps this season, but a lot of these young guys are on these programs that have had some rough couple of years. We've already seen it transform Alleman and Geneseo a little bit this year, and Galesburg really too. So the Western Big Six, I think, is only getting more competitive.
The future is brighter for the Western Big Six with all this young talent. I already mentioned these next 2 names, but let's go to Joe and Grant's newcomers of the year in the Western Big Six. Joe, let's start with you.
So when I do this, I always try to whenever I think of this award, I want it to be like a freshman or sophomore, because you could easily go with a guy like Jack Kreis, who didn't play really at all last year in conference play, and I almost had him first team. But I always want to look at this as a sophomore or a freshman making their first varsity starts. And this was really, really close. My guy was Darion McDaniel, the freshman for the Allman Pioneers. Finished top 10 in scoring in the league. Really was a jolt of lightning for them once they finally inserted him into the starting lineup. And just a really, really athletic player, explosive, can get to his spots. He is a very, very talented guard. And Allman's got some really good freshmen. They've got a 3-headed monster with him and a couple other guys that are freshmen. If they keep that thing together and continue to build, Scotty Morrell, talk about something that could get those guys up and running. So we love to see that, and Darion McDaniel is my newcomer of the year.
I picked Brennan Lepper from Quincy, who Joe spoke of a couple of minutes ago. He's in really the top 10 of the league in a handful of categories. Let's see, second in the Western Big Six in freshman points per game with 12 of them, ninth in rebounding. He's that big guy underneath for Quincy and could really, when they're able to have a matchup advantage, which I saw them twice this season against UT, they didn't have the matchup advantage because UT has two guys that could equally match up with Lepper. But overall, going against a lot of these teams of the Western Big Six and in a lot of teams Quincy faced this season, Lepper had the size advantage. They were able to take advantage. They got the ball to him, and he made the other team pay more often than not, 12 points a game in conference play, as I said. So he was definitely effective. And as a freshman, he's just going to keep getting stronger and better for the Blue Devils.
He's a load, man. He's tough. And the two games I saw him, unfortunately, probably two of his lower output games. What did he have against UT?
He didn't do much in the two games I saw him against UT. But the numbers, I'd say, outside of those four were really solid.
Yeah, he's going to be – if I had to shake the old magic 8 ball to see who the best player in the league was by the time they were, in 2 years when these freshmen were talking about our juniors, I would almost be stunned if it's not him. He's going to be really, really good.
Great coaching jobs this year in the Western Big Six as well. You talk about Moline at the top. You talk about the wins that Geneseo put up this year, and that's who we're going with your coaches of the year.
Yeah, I went with Sean Taylor. What they have done this season, they lose 88% of their scoring, the Maroons. They lose 92% of their rebounding. If we would have went into this season and said, yeah, Moline's going to win 20-plus games, and they're going to go 13-1 in the league, I thought y'all would have been nuts. And I always have faith that they're going to be competitive. That's just what they've done. But I just felt that it was too much. Like, I just didn't know if they would be able to. Like, I knew coming into the season that so obviously we knew Brady Welch would be good, but there were other pieces. I felt Josh Hendricks could be a really good second fiddle, which he ended up being that and then some. And I liked some of the other pieces, but outside of that, it's a lot of youth. It's a lot of inexperience all at once to jam together. And as the players continued to get better and better, they navigated the season so well. At the beginning of the season, it was a lot more, and you think of the wins against UT and Rocky on the road to start the year, which set them up to be able to have a shot to win the league. That's game, I think it was game 5 or it was game 4 and 7 of their season with that group to win those two games against two teams with a boatload of experience. I thought a lot of that was schematic advantage and just their coaching staff as a whole, what they were able to do. And as the season went along, I think obviously the coaching staffs here, the players continued to get better and better to meet that level. And I'm not saying anything like that to take away from the players, but I'm doing it as a tip of the cap to the coaching staff of navigating the early waters of the season. And then as the tides shifted, they continued to make every single correct move. They would switch up the starting lineups when they felt like they needed to at certain points of the season. There was a stretch here before this last one. They were 2-4 in their last 6 games, looking to kind of change some stuff. They all of a sudden insert sophomore Travis Spicer and freshman Ethan Davis Lamb, younger brother of former Maroon Trey Taylor, into the rotation coming off the bench to give them just a jolt of kind of a different look and a punch. And both of them have had huge performances in all of their games to finish 4-1 down the stretch in their last 5. So they have really navigated this entire season well, and Sean Taylor, one of the best in the business, and it was so impressive to see them do what they were able to do all year.
First-year head coach for you.
TJ Lacey from Geneseo. Also kind of bounced around a couple of coaches here, but I love TJ Lacey's energy. He turned what was a Geneseo program that had 4 wins in the last 3 years. They didn't win a single game a couple of years back, and now they win 12 this year. He brings that energy. He's pretty active on social media. He puts the content out there to kind of, for motivational content for his players and for basketball players, youth basketball players overall. So I think he's brought kind of a new sense of energy, new sense of life into this program that was really struggling the last couple of seasons. And I think TJ Lacey did an exceptional job. It's a Geneseo team that kind of struggled with depth at times this season, but I think he was aware of what pieces they had and was able to utilize it as the season went along. And he did an excellent job with what he had at Geneseo this year. And I think he is going to be a guy that could be around this league for a long time, or also could continue to go on and have success for other places. But I love what TJ Lacey did with Geneseo, and I think he's a really great person overall.
Yeah, games of the year, we'll do that too. One overtime and one double overtime and one possession game.
Yeah, it was really, there were a plethora of games that were worthy of it, but I just felt that Moline over Rocky to start early in the season, it was the game really that helped decide the conference championship. Only the second week of the season, but an overtime game between the two best teams in the league. Just so many crazy dramatics. It was the first game that Arthur Abbey played against Moline. There was so much emotion. Been a while since I'd seen the Rock Garden packed that jam packed. It was an incredible game. Moline was down in the fourth, came storming back to win or to tie it. They go up, I think, 8 in OT with like a minute and a half left, and Rocky just they were a cat in overtime. They had a billion lives. They kept hanging around, and then it came down to the final shot where Devin Marshall had a chance to tie it, but he just missed. But yeah, I thought that was my game of the year in the conference.
I went with a game that I don't think got talked about as much as it should have. It was a game that I think it was one of those weekends where it was super cold. It was from Friday to Saturday
at noon.
Yeah, it was a Saturday afternoon game. I don't even know if I knew it was happening. I think I had seen the score the next morning, maybe just online somewhere. But it was Galesburg beating Alleman 82-69 in double overtime. Galesburg had I think it was a 3-point lead with 2 seconds left. They inbounded it. Alleman stole it away. Jack Wendt made a game-tying 3. It went to overtime. They were even after the first overtime, and then Galesburg wore out the Pioneers enough to beat them 18-5 in the second overtime and end up winning the game by 13. But I think on paper, and kind of when you dive into some of the way that it played out there in the final seconds, I think that definitely is kind of the craziest game of the year. There's also a lot of wild games with some of the narratives and things as well. We saw a wild one between Moline and UT at the start of this season. Even UT just a couple of weeks ago played an awesome game against Rock Island. But I think Galesburg Alleman could take the cake with that one.
I think they just called another technical in the UT Rocky game. I was going to mention, too, a game that kind of was similar to that. Quincy at Sterling. Sterling's up 6 or 7 late. Quincy comes storming back. Brendan Lepper hits like a turnaround, fadeaway, banked in, top of the key 3 to send it to overtime, and then Quincy runs away with it in OT. So that was another one that kind of just missed the mark for me. So there were definitely some doozies this year in the league, which there always are. This league's so awesome.
Last but not least, MVP, and you both agree on this one as well.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
Sorry, folks. Listen. This was a fantastic year for the Maroons, obviously, and what they were able to do. And Brady Welch, we talked about this team and what they would have had to do to be successful. You would have imagined that Brady Welch would have had to have a year like this. And I don't even know if I expected it. I didn't even think it could be this good. We knew that it was there. We knew that the potential was to be there, but he really stepped into a role that he obviously never had. He was playing off of two slasher post players to be a spot up shooter running around a bunch of screens playing off ball guard to then turning it and so you knew he had the shot selection, the shot diet, the shot capability to be a multiple level scorer, but to go from that to being the main ball handler the entire game, there were so many different types of coverages we saw him get hit with this year, whether it was out of position guys like 6'7" forwards guarding him just to try to keep the ball away from him. You would see guys just face guarding him in the half court no matter what. At the end of the season, we started seeing teams literally just start throwing 2 bodies at him before he got across that. He was literally getting the Brock Harding treatment. It was pretty fascinating to see, and I'm not comparing the two, so don't come at me. I'm just saying I saw Brock get it a bunch. It was very funny when it happened to him because it was just funny to see teams that desperate to not have one guy touch the ball. But he, as Grant noted, had to put the team on his back a multitude of times, and this isn't, again, taking anything away from the other players on the team. He just had to carry a load way more than any other player in the conference. And I never got confirmation on it, but he had over to one of, I'm sure, a short list. Maybe it could be a huge list. I'm not sure. Whoever sees this, please tell me so I can be informed. But I don't know how long the list is of guys that have had over 300 points in a conference season, but he finished with 320, just under 23 points a game in league play. He's around 21, 22 points per game on the season, 4 30-point games, close to 20-point games. He scored at least in double digits in every game. And if some people think that's easy, if it was easy, everybody would score double digits every game. That, like, to get the attention that he did, to know that he had to be that good every single night for his team to have a chance and to deliver as much as he did, it was so impressive to see him take on that challenge and to continue to be that driving force every single day for Moline.
I think his poise and just his basketball brain is really impressive too, because he doesn't walk into a gym as a guy with the most impressive stature. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the strongest guy on either team, but he still, I think, is the most mentally driven guy on most teams around the conference. And he is going to attack you. He is not afraid to put up his shot, and a good majority of the time, he's going to make that shot. So I just think he kind of knows the game. He knows what he needs to do for his team. He seems to really know the scouting report on other teams, which spot to the floor he needs to get to. He knows the sets well, and he uses every single skill that he has so perfectly where it fits all the time whenever Moline needs it, wherever they need it. And I think it's just been really incredible what he's done this season. And we're watching another pretty special year from a Maroon guard, which we've definitely said a lot over the last couple of years.
And any of those guys that made our first team lists, like, those guys all have cases. It's just, again, when you compare what Brady had to do, and I think when the actual all-conference teams come out, I think Josh Hendricks will be probably a second-teamer. Because again, they do more than 5. So if we're doing like a 6 or 7 guy, Josh Hendricks is a borderline top 10 all-conference guy. He'll probably make the list. Alante Anderson could be an honorable mention all-conference player. Ami Singh as a senior had some good moments, but again, it's just as those guys are good players and ascending players, it's just what Brady Welch had to do every single night for the Maroons to be. To compete at the highest level that they could. I think that's why, in my opinion, it's pretty unanimous to me that he was the MVP of the conference season.
I talked to Andy Say before each of their 2 meetings, and now going into their 3rd next week at the regional against UT. And what's your key? We got to stop Brady Welch. And if you're trying to know how to beat Rock Island, there's 3, 4, 5 guys you have to stop. If you're trying to beat UT, it's probably the same, and that can be said for a lot of different guys. I don't know if there's one other guy around the conference that has led a team as much as Brady Welch had this year. It's been incredible. He is the X factor for the Maroons, and he is the #1 guy on the top of a scouting report for a team trying to beat Moline. And it takes a lot of success to get to that point, and he has had that success to back it up.
We'll see what kind of performance Brady Welch will put on starting next week in the regional over at UT, and we'll see you then.